I'll be honest. I think a lot of the conversation around quote unquote mental health in our current society is extraordinarily shallow and superficial.
Yes,
And
I agree.
some people don't like it when I say that because then they think you're saying, "Oh, Zuby doesn't care about mental health." I'm like, "No, I just think that it's a buzz it's being used as like a buzz term, right? It's kind of trendy to talk about mental health in the most shallow way possible. It's trendy
Mhm.
to say, oh, it's trendy to even have claim you have an issue even if you don't really, right? Everyone suddenly has anxiety and depression and PTSD and
Yep.
this and that. And I also don't like it when people do that because I'm like, well, you're diluting these terms for people who have genuine problems, right? If you'll have a 16-year-old who went through a relationship breakup and they're claiming they have PTSD, and I'm like, well, that's that's just the human experience, right?
Mhm.
Or someone's just sad and they call it depression. And I'm like, well, every time you're using this, you're diluting these terms. And then people are like, oh, you're saying depression doesn't exist. And I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if we start using these terms so loosely and
Mhm.
just sticking to this very shallow level and not actually, I mean, this whole podcast, this whole conversation, all this stuff I've never even heard this mentioned. I didn't even know this existed. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, if people want to be serious and talk about mental health, of course, like let's go to the root firstly, right? Let's talk about family.
Mhm.
Let's talk about exercise and diet and nutrition and lifestyle. Let's really talk about the human condition and how we can deal with this. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about the importance of having a belief system, right? Let's talk about, I mean, this whole industry that you're telling me about. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, okay, where is the money going? You're telling me they're making $23 billion and they're running around slamming kids on their head and putting the right. I mean, to me, it's just it's frustrating because I'm just like, well, if we're really going to address this, I'm not here saying, oh no, don't address the issue, right? Like address it, but let's do it properly, right? To be honest, I feel the same with so many different issues. I feel similar with the whole like conversation around policing, right? It's kind of trendy to be, oh, all cops are bad, do this, do that, defund the police. And it's just like, well, do people just want to hold up signs and look like they're doing something, kind of just putting in hashtags or whatever? Do you actually want to, all right, let's really look into what's going on here. Let's see, are police being underpaid and undertrained? It looks like it to me as an outsider, right? Or have you got the right people even with guns and badges? Maybe not. Like what's going on there? Like what's really the issue? But I feel like there's so many things we talk about and go through on like a very surface, superficial level, and it sort of makes people feel good and feel like they're doing something. But then these things just carry on and they keep going and they keep going, and more people get put through these, grinders, including children, and then on the other end, you get more and more people. Why are so many people ending up in prison, right? Why are people, we talk about mass shooting. What leads someone to do a mass shooting, right? What leads someone? We talk about suicide again, very very surface level, but what is it that is causing a young person or any person to think that life is so hopeless and they're lacking there's so little support, there's no hope whatsoever, that the best option is to end their own life? I mean, that's like a big conversation, and I think we talk about it and are like, oh, this thing's an issue, but it's like, okay, let's really talk about it then. Like let's really think about this, and let's bring all the different angles, all the different perspectives, and let's just talk about it and not just get people jacked up in their emotions and trying to name call and all that. But it seems like every single thing very quickly devolves into it. And I think it makes it real difficult to solve some of these problems because it's hard to even talk about them. It's very hard to even just sit down and be like, okay, like what's going on? What's your perspective? What's your experience? What do you think? What do you think? Let's just bring these ideas to the table, not demonize one another. I'd like to think that everybody, regardless of their social, cultural, political views, would agree, okay, everything you've just described, something needs to be done about that. But the
Yeah.
first thing is people need to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what you're saying is we've pathologized the human experience to where no one can just go through hard times anymore and work through it. Everything has to have a label. And, I have people walk into my office as a therapist and they're like, I think I have BPD and PTSD and this and this and this and this. I'm like, slow down. And they're like, I need medication, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, give me 6 weeks to work with you. I don't want to give you a diagnosis. I just want to talk to you. And 9 times out of 10, they just need some restructuring to their life and they're okay. But they get in the wrong hands. And I see this all the time with my peers that I work with, especially with teenagers. They throw medication at them and they're not actually working on the root of the problem. And I think that America, that's all my experience in America is that everybody just wants a quick fix and they get put on medication and it doesn't change anything long term. In fact, it causes more problems. A lot of these school shootings, they're on antidepressants. I know for
Yep.
myself, I never had behavioral issues. Never, never, never had behavioral issues. I was always a little rebellious, but like never got in major trouble with the law or anything until I started struggling with my grades and I was sleeping all the time because I was a teenager. I was not depressed. I was a happy kid. They thought I was depressed and they put me on Paxil, which is now illegal to give to children because it causes suicide, it causes aggression, it causes just a whole host of problems. It's illegal to give to kids. And they
Wow.
had me, you're supposed to be on 20 milligrams as a grown man, and they had me on 60 milligrams, 3 times what is safe for an adult.
No way.
Because you can get these medications from your family doctor who's
Yeah.
not a psychiatrist, who doesn't understand how the brain works. Like the whole system is just completely flawed. I should have never been on any medication. I should
Yeah.
have I got tested for learning disabilities on my own when I was 21 years old and in college, and I was able to get the college to like pay for it or whatever. And it turned out I had a processing disorder or something like that. That's why I could never get a good math grade, and that's why I always struggled in foreign languages, which you have to take. And when you struggle in math, you struggle in science. And so once I got put in the right, like in college, I had some, like, I got extra time to take tests and stuff. I got straight A's. Yeah, me in high school like that, and it was horrible. So like, there's just a whole, you know, world out there that can help these kids if people understood. You got to look at the root of the problem. But a lot of times, therapy has become their new coping skills. Go talk to someone and have them buy into your BS and affirm everything that you say and not actually challenge you or help you. When someone walks in my office, like, I'm challenging every area of their life because I want them to actually make changes. And
Yeah.
that's just not the norm, unfortunately. And I know some great therapists, so I don't want to act like the whole system is that way, but a lot of it is. And that's why, when I see people say things like on Twitter, like therapy is so stupid, like don't ever go to therapy, I understand why they feel that way. I think it's great. I think that it's a wonderful thing if you find someone that knows what they're doing, but in the wrong hands, it can cause you more problems than it can help, especially
Absolutely.
when your therapist is sending you straight to the psychiatrist to get put on medications and you don't actually need them. Like, I think the idea of medication is to have it in combination with therapy. And what happens is people get on medication with no therapy. Like,
And people get on medication who don't need it. And there's a massive profit incentive for that, especially in the USA. That's actually probably one of my biggest criticisms of the United States is the way that drugs, both legal and illegal, are handled and dealt with. I just think is a massive disaster. Everything from the opioids to the fentanyl to the antidepressants to the uppers and downers and like just yeah, the drug use in this country is just it's insane to me. It's insane to me, and it's so far beyond what it's like even in other other developed countries. I mean, I think with opioids, I think the U.S. consumes over 90% of the global supply, and the U.S. is only 4% of the world's population. So you got 4% of the world's population having 90% of it, and I'm just like, that is bananas. Like that's such a big problem. And then On a going up a level, just echoing some of the statements you said, I think on so many things, human beings and our societies, we struggle with balance. That's something I'm really noticing these days. Is there's just an absence of balance. It's always overcorrecting one way or the other, right? Overcorrecting into, oh, we're gonna give you so much tough love that we're gonna put you in restraints and we're gonna kidnap you and we're gonna slam you on the ground, to we're gonna coddle you so much
Yeah.
that we're not gonna challenge you at all.
Mhm.
And you're just gonna get your way with everything, and whatever you are, whatever you believe, we're just gonna affirm that, and everyone be super gentle, and words of violence and all that nonsense, right? And it's just like, can we not just have a balance between genuinely caring and having compassion whilst also having tough love? But again, maybe this is getting even deeper. Maybe this is the result of an imbalance between the sort of masculine and the feminine, right? Where those two balancing forces, whether in children's lives or even in the lives of adults, have just been out of whack now for multiple decades. And so people have lost track of how to balance these things out in a healthy way. I don't know.